The public at large's reaction to the acolyte has been fascinating. As more and more people are catching on to what Disney's up to, they keep asking the same questions. Why is Disney burning Star Wars to the ground? Why do they refuse to give the audience what they want? Why is Disney willing to lose money hand over fist with flop after flop? A lot of people sniff around the edges of what's going on at Disney. They almost get there. Activists have taken over Disney. It's all about the message. Ideology and politics are stuffed into everything. I would agree with all that, but those are just means to an end. Tactics, if you will. What are the activists trying to accomplish? What's their end goal?
Architectural Outcast.
To answer that question, we have to talk a little history. No, Randy, not history again. Yeah, history. We have to know where we've been to understand why we're here. The second half of the 19th century saw Marxists running all over the place, trying to convince the workers to throw off their chains of oppression, seize the means of production, and rule the world. To the Marxist shock and horror, later rage, more often than not, it was those same workers who were the ones who ran the Marxists out of town on a rail and told them to never come back. As a group, workers have never bought what the Marxists have been selling.
Am I so out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong.
Just like Principal Skinner, the Marxists said, can't be us. It has to be the workers that are the problem. They came up with the concept of false consciousness. They said the workers were so delusional, so lied to, they just thought they were free. In reality, they were slaves. The Marxists said it was their job to break this illusion, to wake the workers up. By the 1890s, the Marxists realized bottom-up revolution wasn't going to work. They decided to go top-down, impose their ideology on everyone with an iron fist. The very first institution that they infiltrated and took over here in America was academia. The political commentator Irving Kristol, Bill Kristol's commie daddy, boy, the apple didn't fall far from the tree on that one, talked about in his biography that in the 20s and 30s at Harvard, you could tell somebody's political leanings if they were a Trotskyite, a Leninite, a classic Marxist, all based upon the table they sat at the cafeteria. What he conveniently left out, there was also a National Socialist table there as well. The list of names of people who sat at that table on a regular basis, quite the eye-opener. In the 1920s, Marxists here in academia set their sights on America. They thought it was ripe for the picking. I mean, how hard could it be? In the 1960s, communist writer Susan Sontag said the quiet part out loud when she admitted, "We will never get Americans to accept communism until we get rid of the Midwest work ethic." Sontag was acknowledging the problem faced by those Marxist schemers in the 20s and 30s. She was admitting the only way Americans would accept Marxist ideology is if they'd become fat and lazy. They had to destroy traditional American values. They developed a two-pronged strategy: entertainment, immigration. One example of how entertainment was manipulated. The Marxists created a whole new genre of music, folk music. The name itself was a lie, meant to evoke the idea that music coming out of the heartland, inspired by the roots of traditional American music. In reality, artists like Pete Seeger were taking socialist Marxist ideas and wrapping them in folksy, all-American sounding jingles. When it came to immigration, the Marxists thought, we don't need to wait to change the culture. We can overwhelm it. We'll bring in people from Eastern Europe, from cultures that are already communist and socialist. They'll bring their ideas with them. We will isolate them in ghettos, keep them poor, economically dependent upon the politicians. We will encourage them to reproduce at a much faster rate than the native population. It won't take long that we win by default. At first, it seemed like this approach was working. Communism was still struggling, but socialism had gone mainstream. There were socialist elected officials. Roosevelt, for his part, he openly bragged about the socialist and communist members of his administration. The New York Times was writing article after article claiming communism's the way of the future. You need to get on board with this new way of doing things or get left behind. The Marxists were salivating. America's about to go red. 30 plus years of hard work was going to pay off. Traditional American values? See ya, wouldn't want to be you. They were about to be swept into the dustbin of history. And then two things happened. First, Germany and Russia invaded Poland. Within 24 hours, any chance that America might have gone red? Poof. The second reason? It was always a pipe dream. America wasn't going red. Those pesky Eastern European immigrants, they refused to stay in their ghettos. They refused to stay poor. They refused to become dependent upon the politicians. They spread out, integrated into American society. Those socialist and communist values that Eastern Europeans brought with them, by the second generation, they abandoned them, completely embraced traditional American values, reinterpreted them, revitalized them. By the 1950s, traditional American values were stronger than ever. You got to give it to the Marxists for their consistency. If it doesn't work this time, we'll just try it again next time. Late 60s through the 70s, the Marxists were up to their old tricks, manipulating entertainment, bringing in large quantities of immigrants from communist and socialist cultures. This time around, Southeast Asia, Latin America. One of the old problems that the Marxists faced back in the 20s and 30s reared its ugly head again. These new immigrants, they also insisted on integrating into the culture. And in particular, the Koreans, the Vietnamese, and the Chinese, they integrated even faster than the Eastern Europeans had done. It turns out traditional American values, independence, self-reliance, self-sacrifice, personal courage, are appealing ideas, seductive even. Given the choice between Marxism and traditional American values, the vast majority of people consistently choose traditional American values. In the 1980s, America, along with these new immigrants, collectively gave the Marxists the back of their hands. No one was interested in the Marxist song and dance, The Origins of Asian Hate. The Marxists realized they'd done screwed up. You see, the American experiment was created by the middle class, for the middle class, and was ruled by the middle class. The American middle class had zero interest in an ideology hell-bent on destroying the middle class. So the Marxists do what Marxists do best. They lied. They kept the agenda, but changed the language. The Marxists modified their critical theory to become critical race theory. They changed the term American middle class to white privilege. They changed the term traditional American values to white values. White equaled racist. In fact, all ideas that weren't Marxist ideas are now racist. The American middle class is not an organization that has formal leaders, official rules, regulations, or bylaws. It's a folkway, a group of people with shared beliefs and values. This folkway has been under pressure by the Marxists since the 1920s. As a response to that pressure, the folkway has reinvented and reinterpreted itself multiple times. How does it do that? By bringing in new blood. In the 1920s and 30s, this folkway absorbed the Irish, Italians, Jewish, Czechs, Poles, Ukrainians, and other Eastern European cultures. In the late 70s into the early 80s, it was the turn of the Koreans, Japanese, Chinese, Vietnamese, and other Southeast Asian cultures to be absorbed into the folkway. In the 90s, it was Indians and Hispanics who began to assimilate. Starting in the 1960s, the American left has tried to destroy the middle class through economic warfare. It's been a spectacular failure because being a part of the middle class isn't about money. It's an idea. Remember, it's a folkway, a group of people with shared values and beliefs. The Marxists have returned to the idea they developed in the 1920s. In order to destroy the American middle class, they need to destroy traditional American values. The Marxists' chosen tactics make traditional American values so repugnant no one dares utter them in public. And those who share those values, the middle class, make them so reviled and despised no one dares associate with them, much less join them. We come back to the Marxist favorite tactic, manipulating entertainment. Disney has been infiltrated from top to bottom by activists. And it doesn't matter if they're fellow travelers, convenient dupes, or useful idiots. The final product is going to be the same regardless. What these activists are doing goes way beyond just inserting their ideology into everything they create. They are actively trying to destroy traditional American values. They would rather burn in the 9th level of Marxist hell before they would ever release any story that advocated or promoted any of these traditional values. When we as the audience say, "Give us what we want," they don't interpret that to mean, "Give us a good story." What they hear is us asking for the ideas that they despise. And because we're asking for those ideas, they associate us with a group that they hate. They would rather burn Disney to the ground before they would give us what we want. When the activists in the media and the shills attack the fans, they're not trying to defend Disney. They don't give two rats' asses about Disney. What they're doing is trying to make the fans and their ideas so repugnant, no one wants anything to do with them. The Marxist endgame is full censorship. The only entertainment allowed is what they approve. Ideally, they would love to be able to completely erase traditional American values from history. The good news? The jig's up. More and more people recognize what the Marxists and their allies are up to. They're arsonists and vandals destroying cultural artifacts. If you scream ist and phobe at anybody who tries to stop you from very publicly destroying things that society values, while at the same time claiming moral superiority, you just piss people off. You make enemies. Enemies with very long memories who are going to hold a grudge. Good luck, Disney. I, for one, look forward to enjoying the things created by the people who replace you. Hey, Marxist, let me give you all a free piece of advice. If you pick a fight with an entire group of people, don't be surprised if they fight back. I'm putting my money on the folkway. At any rate, I hope I've given you all something to think about, and until next time, y'all be safe. If y'all are still here, I really appreciate it. While you're at it, why don't you like this video, subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell. You can hear me yammer on about something else next time. And feel free to share this video far and wide.
Please like and subscribe. Please leave a comment.